Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, for too long the story told about Africa by the West has been one of weakness, dependency, and failure. They have painted a picture that reduces us to mere recipients of aid, as if our destiny lies solely in their hands. But I stand here today to tell you this narrative is false, and it is time we shatter it once and for all. Africa is not a continent to be pitied. We are a land of immense potential, rich in resources, culture, and most importantly, in the spirit of our people. Our strength has always been within us, in our communities, in our resilience, and in our determination to forge our own path. No longer will we accept a story written by others, for others, about ourselves. The so-called Western narrative seeks to maintain control through misinformation and manipulation. It ignores the injustices we have suffered, colonialism, exploitation, and interference in our sovereign affairs, and instead portrays us as incapable of governing ourselves. But the truth is that Africa's challenges are not born from who we are, but from the legacy of those who came before, who sought to divide and dominate us. Today I stand unfiltered, speaking directly to the people of Africa and to the world. We reject the notion that development must come from external forces. We are capable of building our institutions, harnessing our resources, and protecting our sovereignty. Our future will be shaped by Africans, for Africans. We call for respect, not charity. We demand partnerships based on equality, not dependency. We embrace innovation and cooperation that uplift our people and preserve our dignity. The time has come to reclaim our narrative and write our own history, one of pride, progress, and unity. The world must recognize that Africa is not a problem to be solved, but a powerful force to be reckoned with. Let us move forward with courage and clarity, united in purpose and unyielding in our resolve. Africa is no longer a continent to be spoken about in pity or dependency. We are a continent of strength, resilience, and untapped potential that must be recognized on its own terms. For far too long, the global conversation about Africa has been framed by outsiders who see only what they want to see. Poverty, conflict, and weakness, ignoring the rich history, the vibrant cultures, and the tremendous capabilities that define us. This narrative has been convenient for those who benefit from keeping Africa dependent, fragmented, and misunderstood. But we refuse to accept this distorted lens any longer. Our history is one of great civilizations, empires, and innovation. Long before colonial borders were drawn, Africa was home to thriving centers of knowledge, trade, and culture, from Timbuktu to Great Zimbabwe, from the kingdoms of Mali and Songhai to the empires of Ethiopia and Benin. Africa was a continent of power and influence. The stories of our ancestors are not tales of helplessness, but of courage, intelligence, and ingenuity. This legacy lives within us today and forms the foundation for our future. The resilience of African peoples is unmatched. Despite the brutal legacy of colonialism, slavery, and exploitation, we have endured and persevered. Our cultures have survived attempts to erase them, our communities have rebuilt in the face of devastation, and our spirit has never been broken. This resilience is not merely a survival mechanism, it is a source of strength that fuels our ambition to reclaim control over our own destinies. We are not victims, we are survivors, creators, and leaders. Africa's potential is vast and undeniable. We possess some of the world's richest natural resources, from minerals to fertile land, from vast forests to abundant water sources. Beyond our natural wealth, our youth represent one of the largest and fastest growing populations globally, full of energy, creativity, and drive. This demographic dividend is an asset that can propel the continent into a new era of development and prosperity, provided we invest in education, infrastructure, and opportunities that unlock their potential. But potential alone is not enough. Recognition and respect from the global community are essential. We must be seen as partners and equals in the international arena, not as mere recipients of aid or subjects of pity. Our voice must carry weight in global decision-making, our interests must be prioritized, and our sovereignty must be respected. This means ending the era of neocolonialism, where economic and political interference masquerades as assistance or cooperation. African nations must work together to build a united front that champions our collective interests. Fragmentation has been one of the greatest obstacles to our progress. When we stand divided, external forces find it easier to manipulate and control. But when we come together, through organizations like the African Union and regional economic communities, we amplify our power and present a shared vision of development and self-determination. Unity is not merely a slogan, it is a strategic necessity. Investing in our own institutions is critical. Development cannot be handed down from outside, it must be homegrown. We need to strengthen our governance systems to be transparent, accountable, and effective. We must support entrepreneurship and innovation, leveraging technology to solve our unique challenges. Education must be accessible and relevant, preparing our young people to compete on a global stage while remaining rooted in their heritage. Moreover, we must harness our resources sustainably and equitably. Too often our wealth has been extracted to benefit foreign interests, leaving our people in poverty. It is time to take control of our natural resources, ensuring that the profits generated contribute directly to improving the lives of our citizens. This means enacting policies that protect our environment and communities while fostering economic growth. Africa's story is not one of passive recipients of aid, but active shapers of their future. Foreign aid has in many cases created dependency rather than independence. We welcome international cooperation, but it must be based on mutual respect and partnership, not on conditions that undermine our sovereignty. Aid should support African-led initiatives and priorities, not dictate them. We must also confront the false narratives that continue to paint Africa in a negative light. The media, educational systems, and political rhetoric in many parts of the world still focus disproportionately on Africa's challenges without acknowledging our achievements. This one-sided portrayal affects how the world treats us and how Africans see themselves. Changing this narrative requires us to tell our own stories, stories of innovation, culture, success, and hope. As African leaders and citizens, we have a responsibility to nurture pride in our identity and history. We must reject the shame imposed by colonial mindsets and embrace the richness of our diversity. Our languages, traditions, and customs are treasures that connect us to our roots and inspire future generations. The future of Africa belongs to us. It will be shaped by our hands and hearts, not by the agendas of others. We are capable of greatness and ready to take our rightful place in the global community. This requires courage to confront uncomfortable truths, wisdom to build inclusive societies, and determination to pursue sustainable progress. The world must understand that Africa's strength lies not only in its resources, but in its people, their ideas, their labor, and their dreams. It is time for a new chapter, one where Africa is no longer a footnote in global affairs, but a driving force. We are no longer to be spoken of with pity or dependency. We are a continent of strength, resilience, and boundless potential, and we demand to be recognized as such. Let us rise with confidence, reclaim our narrative, and work together to build an Africa that is prosperous, united, and free. The eyes of the world are watching, and history will remember this moment as the turning point when Africa said, "We are here, we are strong, we are unstoppable." The Western narrative has long served to undermine our sovereignty by portraying Africans as incapable of self-governance, but we reject this falsehood and affirm our right to lead and determine our own destiny. For centuries, the story told about Africa has been one of dependency, dysfunction, and disorder. A story crafted to justify domination, exploitation, and control. This narrative has not only robbed us of our dignity, but has also been used as a tool to interfere in our political, economic, and social affairs under the guise of help or stabilization. We stand firmly today to declare that this narrative is a lie, a harmful construct designed to keep Africa subjugated and our people marginalized. The idea that Africans cannot govern themselves is a misconception rooted in colonial arrogance and racism. Colonial powers claimed they had to civilize us because we lacked the ability to manage our own affairs. After independence, these same powers continued to push this false narrative by supporting regimes that served their interests, undermining those who truly sought to serve their people, and interfering in democratic processes. These actions have created instability, but the cause is not African incapacity. It is external interference and imposed systems that do not reflect our realities or values. Our right to self-governance is not something granted by others. It is inherent. It is born from our history, our culture, and our very existence as a people. We have the wisdom, the strength, and the vision to chart our own course. To accept anything less is to deny the sacrifices of those who fought for our independence and to betray the aspirations of future generations. African leadership must come from within, rooted in the needs and dreams of our people, not dictated by foreign agendas. We reject any attempts to impose leaders or policies that do not align with our interests. Sovereignty means that we decide who leads us, how we govern, and what direction we take as nations and as a continent. This includes rejecting conditional aid or agreements that come with strings attached, strings that pull us away from true autonomy and bind us to dependency. We must create partnerships that respect our equality and sovereignty, not relationships that perpetuate old patterns of control. The Western narrative also undermines our sovereignty by dismissing the legitimacy of African solutions to our problems. There is a tendency to view African initiatives as inadequate or unproven simply because they do not mirror Western models. But Africa is a continent of innovation and adaptation. Our challenges require solutions born of our context, solutions that understand our social fabrics, our economic realities, and our cultures. From grassroots movements to regional cooperation, African-led approaches are proving effective, and they deserve recognition and support, not skepticism and dismissal. To reclaim our sovereignty, we must strengthen our institutions, political, economic, and social, so that they are resilient, transparent, and truly serve our people. We must build governance systems that are accountable and inclusive, that protect the rights of all citizens, and that foster peace and development. This requires courage to confront corruption, injustice, and inefficiency within, as well as vigilance against external interference that seeks to destabilize us for selfish gains. Our sovereignty is also connected to control over our resources. For too long, African wealth has been extracted by foreign corporations with little benefit to our people. This economic exploitation weakens our ability to govern independently and invest in our own development, taking back control over our natural resources, ensuring they serve our national interests, and using their revenues to build infrastructure, education, and health systems is essential to true sovereignty. We must also challenge the international systems that perpetuate inequality and limit our ability to exercise full sovereignty. Trade rules, debt burdens, and financial systems often disadvantage African countries, forcing them into unfavorable positions and reducing their policy space. Reforming these systems requires a united African voice and strategic diplomacy, asserting our rights and interests in global forums. Reclaiming sovereignty is not about isolation, but about dignity and respect in how we engage with the world. It means choosing our partners wisely, negotiating fairly, and standing firm against attempts to impose decisions on us. It also means promoting African unity as a source of strength in international affairs. When we speak as one, our sovereignty is reinforced and our interests amplified. The people of Africa are ready and capable of self-governance. Our leaders must reflect this confidence and act accordingly. We must invest in leadership development that is committed to service, integrity, and accountability. We must nurture a culture of participation where citizens are empowered to hold their governments accountable and contribute to national development. This is the foundation of true sovereignty, a government by the people and for the people, free from external domination. In rejecting the Western narrative that seeks to diminish us, we reclaim our pride and our power. We assert that Africa is not a continent in need of saving, but one with the capacity to save itself. We assert that African leaders can and must govern effectively, guided by the interests of their people rather than foreign powers. We assert that our destiny lies in our own hands, shaped by our values, our history, and our vision for the future. This is not a call for defiance for the sake of defiance, but a call for respect, equality, and justice on the global stage. It is a call for recognition that Africa's sovereignty is not negotiable. It is a fundamental right. When we affirm this truth and act on it, we pave the way for genuine progress, peace, and prosperity for all Africans. We stand at a crossroads with an opportunity to break free from the chains of false narratives and external control. It will require boldness, unity, and unwavering commitment to our principles. But the reward is worth it. an Africa that governs itself with dignity, that shapes its own future, and that commands respect around the world. We are ready, we are capable, we will lead. Our challenges today are not born from our people or culture, but are the direct consequences of colonial exploitation and continued interference that seek to keep us divided and weak. It is crucial that we understand the root causes of the difficulties we face, so we do not fall into the trap of blaming ourselves or each other. The history of Africa is marked by the violent and systematic extraction of wealth, the destruction of institutions, and the imposition of artificial borders that have divided our peoples and disrupted our ways of life. These actions were not random, they were calculated measures designed to extract maximum benefit for colonial powers at the expense of African societies. Colonialism left behind fractured states, economies dependent on the export of raw materials, and social divisions that continue to fuel conflict and instability. Our resources were plundered, our people exploited, and our cultures suppressed. The colonial system sought to erase the autonomy and identity of African nations, replacing them with structures that served foreign interests. When independence was finally achieved, the legacy of this exploitation remained deeply entrenched. Our countries inherited borders that disregarded ethnic and cultural realities, creating tension and sometimes violent conflict that outsiders often exploit for their own gain. Even after formal independence, the interference did not stop. Neocolonialism, in its various forms, continues to undermine our sovereignty and development. Economic policies dictated by international financial institutions, foreign military interventions, and political meddling have perpetuated cycles of instability. These interventions often claim to be for our benefit, but they too frequently serve the interests of external powers rather than those of our people. The consequences are clear. Political instability, economic dependency, and social fragmentation that hinder our ability to move forward as unified, strong nations. It is important to reject the notion that African culture or people are responsible for these problems. African cultures are rich, diverse, and resilient, capable of providing the foundation for strong societies. Our traditions of community, mutual support, and respect for the environment offer powerful tools for development and peace. The challenges we face are the result of external forces disrupting our social fabric, not inherent flaws within our peoples or cultures. Furthermore, it is essential to recognize how these external forces have manipulated our divisions. The colonial strategy of divide and rule exploited existing differences or created new ones, setting communities against each other to maintain control. These divisions persist in many forms today, often exacerbated by foreign influence seeking to weaken our unity and sovereignty. To overcome our challenges, we must confront these divisions honestly and work tirelessly toward reconciliation, inclusion, and solidarity. Addressing the legacy of colonialism also means reclaiming our economic independence. Our economies remain vulnerable because they are structured around exporting raw materials and importing finished goods, a system designed during colonial times to benefit Europe and other foreign powers. This economic model leaves us subject to global market fluctuations and external decision-making. Breaking free from this cycle requires investing in local industries, diversifying our economies, and building regional markets that strengthen our collective bargaining power. Our path forward must include a determined effort to reclaim control over our resources. For too long, multinational corporations, often supported by foreign governments, have extracted Africa's wealth with minimal benefit to our people. We must establish transparent, fair, and accountable systems that ensure our natural resources serve our nation's development. This also involves protecting our environment, which colonial exploitation often devastated, and promoting sustainable practices that preserve our lands for future generations. The struggle against continued interference also requires political vigilance. We must safeguard our democratic processes and institutions from manipulation by foreign interests seeking to install compliant regimes or destabilize governments that prioritize African autonomy. This requires strong leadership committed to transparency, accountability, and national interests. It also calls for an informed and engaged citizenry that holds its leaders accountable and resists divisive tactics employed by those who seek to undermine our unity. Education plays a crucial role in this struggle. We must teach our history honestly, exposing the realities of colonialism, and celebrate our cultures and achievements. By educating our youth about the true sources of our challenges, we empower them to reject false narratives that blame African peoples for problems created by external forces. Education must also equip them with the skills to innovate, lead, and build a future that reflects our values and aspirations. Internationally, Africa must unite to challenge the systems that perpetuate our marginalization. Whether in trade negotiations, climate agreements, or global governance, our collective voice is more powerful when we act together. We must demand fair treatment, respect for our sovereignty, and partnerships based on mutual benefit rather than exploitation. Our unity will be our strength in confronting the external pressures that seek to keep us divided and weak. At the same time, healing the wounds left by colonialism requires addressing internal challenges such as corruption, inequality, and poor governance. These issues cannot be ignored or excused, but must be tackled with determination. They are obstacles to our development and unity, but are distinct from the external forces that created the structural conditions in which they flourish. Combating these internal challenges strengthens our societies and makes us less vulnerable to external manipulation. Our struggle is not only political or economic, it is also a struggle for dignity and respect. For too long, Africa has been portrayed as a continent of problems rather than potential. This narrative diminishes our achievements and obscures our contributions to the world. We must reclaim our dignity by telling our own stories, stories of resilience, innovation, and hope. These stories inspire pride in our identity and reinforce our determination to overcome the legacies of exploitation and interference. The road ahead is not easy, but it is ours to walk. We must confront the past honestly, unite in the present, and build for the future with confidence and determination. Africa's challenges are real, but they are not insurmountable. They are the result of deliberate actions by others, and we have the power to change this reality through solidarity, wise leadership, and an unwavering commitment to our sovereignty. We reject any narrative that blames African peoples or cultures for the hardships we face. Instead, we affirm that our strength lies in our history, our values, and our unity. By recognizing the true sources of our challenges and working together to address them, we will build an Africa that is free, prosperous, and respected, a continent that controls its own destiny and commands the respect it deserves on the world stage. This is not just our right, it is our responsibility to ourselves and to future generations. True development comes from within Africa, through our own institutions, our own innovations, and the unity of our peoples, not from foreign aid or conditional partnerships. For too long, Africa has been seen as a continent in need of constant external assistance, as if progress can only come from outside forces. This mindset has fostered dependency and undermined our ability to build sustainable futures rooted in our own realities and aspirations. It is time to break free from this cycle and recognize that the power to transform Africa lies in our hands. Our institutions, political, economic, educational, and social, are the foundation upon which development must be built. When these institutions are strong, transparent, and accountable, they create an environment where people can thrive, businesses can grow, and communities can prosper. Strengthening our institutions means investing in good governance, fighting corruption, and ensuring that policies serve the interests of our citizens rather than narrow elites or foreign agendas. It means building systems that are resilient to external pressures and responsive to the needs of all Africans. Development born from within is also driven by innovation that understands and responds to our unique challenges and opportunities. Across the continent, we see countless examples of African ingenuity, farmers adopting new agricultural techniques to increase yields, entrepreneurs creating technologies that connect people and markets, scientists developing solutions to health crises, and artists shaping culture that unites and inspires. These innovations are powerful because they are rooted in our context, informed by our experiences, and motivated by a deep desire to improve the lives of our communities. Yet innovation alone is not enough without unity. Africa's strength lies in its people, and true development requires the collaboration and solidarity of all Africans. Our diversity is a source of richness, but it must be harnessed through a spirit of cooperation rather than division. When we work together across borders, ethnicities, and languages, we create economies of scale, share knowledge, and build political power that can negotiate better terms on the global stage. The African Continental Free Trade Area is a promising example of how unity can drive economic growth and development by creating larger markets and fostering regional integration. Foreign aid, while often well-intentioned, cannot replace this internal drive for development. Too frequently, aid comes with conditions that shape our policies according to external priorities rather than our own. These conditions can limit our sovereignty, distort our economies, and discourage local initiative. Aid can also create dependency, where governments and communities rely on external funding instead of mobilizing their own resources and talents. We must shift from a model of aid to one of partnerships that respect African leadership and priorities, and that support rather than dictate development. Conditional partnerships are equally problematic. When cooperation is tied to political or economic concessions, it becomes a tool for influence rather than mutual benefit. True partnerships are built on respect, equality, and shared goals. They recognize Africa as a continent of potential and opportunity, not a charity case. Such partnerships support capacity building, technology transfer, and knowledge exchange, empowering Africans to take the lead in their own development. Education and skills development are central to this vision of internal-driven development. We must invest in education systems that prepare our youth for the challenges and opportunities of the 21st. This means not only improving access and quality, but also ensuring that curricula are relevant to our context and future needs. Education must foster critical thinking, creativity, and entrepreneurship. It should celebrate African history and culture, instilling pride and identity alongside technical skills. Infrastructure is another critical area where internal investment is vital. Roads, electricity, water, and digital connectivity are the backbone of economic activity and social development. Rather than relying on external financing that can be costly or come with restrictive terms, we must mobilize domestic resources and regional cooperation to build and maintain the infrastructure our people need. This approach ensures that infrastructure projects align with our development plans and serve the long-term interests of our communities. Agriculture remains the lifeblood of many African economies and is central to our development. Improving agricultural productivity through research, technology, and better access to markets can reduce poverty, improve food security, and create jobs. This progress must be led by African farmers, researchers, and policymakers who understand the local realities. Supporting smallholder farmers and rural communities is essential for inclusive growth and resilience. Health systems are equally important. The COVID-19 pandemic revealed vulnerabilities but also highlighted the capacity of African scientists and health workers to respond when given the support they need. Strengthening health systems through local leadership, investment in medical research, and regional collaboration can improve health outcomes and reduce dependency on foreign aid. The role of youth cannot be overstated in Africa's development. Our young people are dynamic, innovative, and eager to contribute. Providing them with opportunities for education, employment, and leadership is an investment in our continent's future. We must create environments where youth can thrive, where their voices are heard, and where their ideas can shape policies and programs. Women's empowerment is also fundamental. When women have equal access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities, societies flourish. Development that excludes half the population is incomplete and unsustainable. We must promote gender equality not only as a matter of justice, but as a strategic imperative for growth and stability. True development also means protecting our environment. Africa's natural resources are a source of life and wealth, but they must be managed sustainably. Climate change poses significant threats, and our responses must be led by Africans who understand the specific vulnerabilities and can design solutions that balance economic development with environmental stewardship. To realize this vision of development from within, leadership matters. African leaders must be committed to serving their peoples, investing in institutions, and fostering unity. They must resist the temptations of corruption and short-term gains, and focus on policies that deliver long-term benefits. Accountability to citizens and transparency in governance are non-negotiable. The narrative must change from one of dependency and aid to one of agency and empowerment. Africa is not a continent waiting for rescue. It is a continent rising, innovating, and building its future with determination. International partners should support this rise, not undermine it. The global community must recognize that Africa's development is a shared opportunity, not a charity case. Our destiny is in our hands. By building strong institutions, fostering innovation, uniting our peoples, and investing in ourselves, we will create the Africa we envision, a continent that thrives on its own terms, that offers hope and prosperity to its citizens, and that stands tall on the world stage. This is the true path to development, and it begins with us. We demand genuine partnerships based on equality and mutual respect, not relationships that perpetuate dependency or strip away our dignity. For far too long, Africa has been subjected to relationships framed by power imbalances, where the interests of foreign nations and corporations take precedence over the well-being of our people. These partnerships often come with conditions that compromise our sovereignty, limit our ability to make independent decisions, and hinder our long-term development. Such arrangements are not partnerships, they are veiled forms of control that keep us tethered to systems designed to benefit others at our expense. True partnership means recognizing Africa as an equal player on the global stage. It means engaging with us, not as aid recipients or subordinate allies, but as sovereign nations with valuable contributions, rich cultures, and immense potential. We bring resources, ideas, innovation, and a vast market that can benefit all. Genuine partnerships understand that mutual benefit is the foundation for lasting cooperation, and that respecting each other's sovereignty and priorities is non-negotiable. We reject partnerships that come with hidden agendas, agreements that require Africa to open its markets without adequate protections, that push policies detrimental to our local industries, or that demand political concessions that undermine our democratic processes. These arrangements exploit our vulnerabilities and perpetuate cycles of underdevelopment. Instead, we call for partnerships that prioritize our development goals, support our industrialization efforts, and empower our peoples. Mutual respect also means acknowledging and addressing historical injustices. The scars of colonialism and exploitation have not healed overnight, and any relationship that ignores this past cannot be truly equitable. Reparations, debt relief, and fair trade practices are part of restoring dignity and creating a level playing field. Genuine partners will recognize these realities and work with us to build a future free from the shadows of past exploitation. In our partnerships, technology transfer must be a priority. Africa's growth depends on access to modern technologies and the ability to develop our own. Too often, foreign partners bring technologies but restrict our ability to adapt, produce, or innovate independently. We demand that technology sharing be open and collaborative, enabling African countries to build capacity, train skilled workers, and create homegrown industries. Trade relationships must be fair and reciprocal. Africa exports raw materials, yet imports expensive finished goods, a pattern that stifles our economic growth. Genuine partnerships support the development of African value chains and industries, helping us move beyond being suppliers of raw commodities to becoming producers of high-quality goods and services. This shift is essential for job creation, economic diversification, and sustainable growth. Financial cooperation should also respect our sovereignty. We are wary of loans and financial aid that come with burdensome conditions, high interest rates, or policies that limit our fiscal autonomy. Genuine partners understand the importance of supporting African-led development financing mechanisms and institutions that prioritize our priorities and provide fair terms. Debt sustainability must be a shared concern, not a tool for control. Cultural exchange and people-to-people connections are another vital aspect of true partnership. Africa's diversity and creativity enrich the world, and we must promote exchanges that foster understanding, respect, and collaboration. Such connections build bridges between peoples, breaking down stereotypes and creating a foundation of trust. In the realm of security cooperation, genuine partnerships mean respecting Africa's leadership in addressing our own security challenges. While we welcome support in combating terrorism, trafficking, and other threats, this support must be coordinated with and led by African institutions. External military interventions that bypass African frameworks often create instability rather than resolve it. Our sovereignty demands that security partnerships are transparent, accountable, and aligned with our peace-building goals. Climate change is a global challenge that requires equitable partnerships. Africa contributes the least to global emissions, but suffers disproportionately from its effects. We demand that climate finance and support respect our development needs and priorities, enabling us to build resilient economies and protect our environment without sacrificing growth. True partnership means shared responsibility and fair burden sharing, not forcing Africa to bear costs it did not create. The private sector also has a role to play in genuine partnerships. Investment in Africa must be responsible, sustainable, and aligned with our development plans. We call on international businesses to commit to fair labor practices, environmental stewardship, and community engagement. Exploitative practices that harm workers or degrade the environment have no place in the Africa we are building. We recognize that building these genuine partnerships requires strong African leadership and unity. When we speak with one voice and present coherent policies, we are better positioned to negotiate equitable agreements. This is why regional integration and continental cooperation are so crucial. They strengthen our bargaining power and create a platform for shared prosperity. At the same time, we encourage African nations to deepen collaboration among themselves. South-South cooperation partnerships between developing countries can be a powerful tool for mutual growth and solidarity. Sharing experiences, technologies, and best practices within Africa and with other emerging economies fosters self-reliance and resilience. Ultimately, genuine partnerships are about dignity. They affirm that Africa's future is not up for negotiation or compromise at the expense of our rights and aspirations. They recognize that development is a journey we undertake as equals, not as beneficiaries of charity or subjects of conditionality. These partnerships foster trust, respect, and a shared commitment to prosperity and peace. Africa is ready to engage with the world on these terms. We bring vision, talent, and determination to shape a future that reflects our values and ambitions. We invite partners who respect our sovereignty, support our priorities, and walk with us as equals. This is our demand and our promise, genuine partnerships that build Africa's strength, dignity, and future. Anything less is unacceptable. We will no longer accept relationships that diminish us or perpetuate dependency. Africa is rising, and we stand firm in our right to determine our own path, with partners who respect and honor that right. The time has come to reclaim our narrative, assert our sovereignty, and build a future founded on African pride, unity, and self-determination. This is the only way forward for our continent. For too long, the story told about Africa has been shaped by others, often framed through the lens of poverty, conflict, and helplessness. This narrative has served external interests, justifying exploitation and intervention, while obscuring the true spirit, strength, and potential of our peoples. We must break free from these imposed stories and tell our own truth, one that reflects our history, our cultures, and our aspiration. Reclaiming our narrative means more than just words. It is a profound act of empowerment. It involves recognizing the richness of African civilizations, the contributions of our ancestors, and the resilience of our communities in the face of adversity. It means highlighting stories of innovation, leadership, and progress that have too often been ignored or marginalized. This narrative shift is essential because the stories we tell shape our identity, our confidence, and the way the world perceives us. When we speak with pride and clarity about who we are, we inspire our youth and command respect globally. Asserting our sovereignty is the natural extension of reclaiming our narrative. Sovereignty is not simply a political concept. It is the foundation of our freedom and dignity. It means having full control over our political decisions, economic policies, cultural expressions, and social development. Sovereignty requires that we protect our borders not just physically, but intellectually and economically. It means rejecting foreign interference that undermines our independence and choosing partners who respect our autonomy. True sovereignty is the ability to make decisions based on what is best for our people, unencumbered by external pressures or conditions. Our sovereignty must also be reflected in the way we govern ourselves. We need leaders who are committed to serving the people with integrity, transparency, and accountability. Leaders who understand that sovereignty comes with responsibility, a responsibility to create inclusive societies, to promote justice, and to foster economic opportunities for all. We must strengthen our institutions to be resilient, fair, and effective, capable of protecting our rights and advancing our collective interests. Unity is the cornerstone of this vision. Africa's strength lies in its diversity, and yet our divisions have too often been exploited to weaken us. Reclaiming our narrative and asserting our sovereignty require that we come together as one people, transcending ethnic, religious, and national differences. Unity is not just a political slogan, it is a practical necessity for achieving the scale and impact needed to transform our continent. When we unite, we pool our resources, share knowledge, and amplify our voice in the global arena. This unity must be reflected in deeper regional integration, stronger continental institutions, and a commitment to peace and solidarity. Building a future based on African pride means embracing our culture, our languages, our traditions, and our values. It means educating our children not only in the sciences and humanities, but also in the rich history and philosophies that have shaped our continent. Pride in our identity fuels confidence and creativity. It inspires entrepreneurship, innovation, and a sense of belonging that can overcome the challenges we face. This pride also means celebrating our achievements on the world stage and demanding respect as equals among nations. Self-determination is the principle that guides all of these efforts. It is the right and the power of Africans to determine their own political status and pursue their economic, social, and cultural development freely. Self-determination rejects the notion that our future should be shaped by others or dictated by external interests. It insists that the solutions to our problems must come from within, from our leaders, our communities, and our institutions. It calls for an end to policies and practices that impose foreign models without regard for African contexts and realities. To achieve this future, we must invest in our people, our greatest asset. Education, healthcare, and skills development are essential. Our youth, in particular, must be empowered to lead with knowledge, creativity, and vision. We must create opportunities for them to participate meaningfully in governance, business, and civil society. Empowered citizens are the bedrock of sovereignty and development. Economic self-reliance is another key pillar. We must reduce dependence on foreign aid and volatile commodity markets by diversifying our economies, developing local industries, and harnessing technology. Regional trade and investment will drive growth and create jobs. Control over our natural resources must be exercised transparently and equitably to benefit all citizens. By building resilient economies, we strengthen our political independence and improve the quality of life for our people. The path forward also demands environmental stewardship. Africa's natural wealth is a blessing, but it must be managed sustainably to ensure long-term prosperity. Climate change presents a grave challenge, but also an opportunity for leadership in green technologies and renewable energy. Our approach must balance development with conservation, guided by African knowledge and priorities. In reclaiming our narrative and asserting our sovereignty, we must also engage with the world from a position of strength and dignity. Africa is not isolated. We are part of a global community. We seek partnerships that respect our independence and contribute to mutual growth. We will engage in diplomacy that reflects our interests and principles, standing firm against any attempts to undermine our autonomy. This vision will not be realized overnight. It requires courage, determination, and unity. It demands that we confront the legacies of colonialism, injustice, and division with honesty and resolve. It calls on all Africans, leaders, youth, civil society, and the private sector to commit to this common goal. The future of Africa lies in our hands. By reclaiming our narrative, we take control of our story and inspire generations to come. By asserting our sovereignty, we ensure that our decisions serve our people's interests. By embracing unity, we harness our collective strength. And by committing to self-determination, we build a continent that is free, prosperous, and respected. This is not just a vision, it is a necessity. The world is changing, and Africa must change with it on its own terms. The time for dependency and imposed narratives is over. The time for African pride, unity, and self-determination is now. Together we will build the Africa we deserve, a continent that stands tall with confidence and dignity, shaping its own destiny and contributing boldly to the future of humanity.